Amigos and amigas, another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show is about to start. It is Monday, June 4th, officially 10 days before the World Cup. World Cup is next week, if you didn't know already. And we're going to start with the Mexican Soccer Show, talk all about el fútbol mexicano. Go ahead and get started. I am Wiso from FootMex Nation. This is an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football, Mexican soccer, and we're definitely talking about El Tri today. Could be other things we can talk about Chivas for an hour, but I'm pretty sure
NBA Finals.
We can. NBA Finals. LeBron not having any help.
We'll go to Tom on that one, right? It'll just be all Tom talk about the NBA Finals.
Definitely. Record by Mr. Curry, 9 threes in a final. All right, let's go. Let's just get started already. We'll start with a question like always, and here it is. Taboo or not taboo? That is the question for today. And obviously pertaining to the Estadio Azteca, the fans at the end of the 1-0 win against Scotland there in the Despedida in front of around almost 80,000 fans. Towards the end, fuera Osorio, but the stadium was booing. So let's start off with the question and go right to you guys, Mr. Cesar Hernandez in San Diego, Tijuana area.
Yeah. Hey, guys. That wasn't really that surprising, though, was it? I mean, we've seen this before from the fans.
I'm surprised. You can boo.
You're saying boo or boo-earns? But we heard the booing when they announced his name before the game started, too. I don't know, man. I wasn't that surprised. I know it's like a big deal because it's the last match. Or it was like the send-off game for Mexico before going to Europe to prep for the World Cup. But I wasn't surprised by it. I'm not saying I agree with it. Obviously, I was like disappointed. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's like a group of Mexico fans out there who would enjoy seeing like Osorio fail more than seeing Mexico succeed. I don't know. It just didn't surprise me at all.
It's not necessarily surprising, but it's. I mean, I guess the question just kind of goes: is it right to boo? Well,
I guess I didn't answer it. Yeah, don't boo. Yeah, don't boo.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last game before the World Cup. I mean, compare it to, say, Panama, going to the first World Cup and you've seen the atmosphere in that stadium. It's like sometimes I feel Mexico maybe takes it for granted. But let's not forget, 4 years ago, Mexico were one kick away, basically, from not making it. I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. I don't think it's right. And yeah, I think from what I heard as well, from being there and chatting to people in the camp, it's like, I think the players were a bit like, what's going on? Like, this is supposed to be the send-off, like 70,000. We win the game. We absolutely dominate the game. All right. That didn't reflect in the scoreline, but it was absolute domination, that game. And yeah, it was a bit ridiculous that they couldn't. But you could feel within the stadium, I don't know, you could just feel it coming. And then in the last 10 minutes, it just kind of all exploded. But yeah, from what I heard, the players were a bit kind of like, what's going on here? But it is what it is. I mean, my theory is that within Mexican football and within the stadiums, it's almost, there's like a lucha libre kind of crossover. And it's like, people go there not just to watch the game, but also the crowd become part of the game. And so you get like, you got the macho, the technical, when you go and watch lucha libre and the crowd are loving it. And like, they want to basically see the technical humiliate, not just win. They want to see the technical humiliate the rudo. And it's like, I just see that. I see that in the Mexican game. And then Osorio has become the other word that I don't want to say, we see it in the goalkeeper chant, and that other word, you know what I'm saying, no? That's another role. It's like the macho against, and it's I don't know. It's culturally fascinating to see, but I do see the kind of a crossover. I don't know what other people think.
Jason, to you, taboo or not taboo? Obviously, we're getting it. One of the things that you can do whatever you want in the stands. You can yell, you can do whatever. It's not like it's illegal or in any place. So more power to whoever can do whatever they want, especially in Mexico. But at the same time, what were your thoughts?
I mean, I wasn't really all that concerned about it. I mean, I don't really have a big problem if fans decide to boo in the stadium at the time. Not really a big deal if it's the last game before the World Cup. I know that's kind of the common sentiment. Like, how can you send Mexico off to the World Cup with boos? But like, it's just boos. Like, I agree with what a lot of Tom said there, even though I'm coming from a different place with it, in that I think that the fans generally don't take it that seriously. They're not breaking down like Mexico's back line and the performance and what they expect out of the World Cup and the overall look of the team. It's just, we came here for some entertainment. We're not really getting what we wanted. We wanted our team to do a lot more, and it's kind of frustrating, and we're going to boo. And it's kind of fun to boo like this. And it's not like the most serious thing in the world. And, you know, the Fuera Osorio kind of stuff, like, of course, it's every manager. It's every manager in Mexico gets that all the time. It's just, it's the way it goes. So I don't know. I don't think it's that serious. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't know. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to me, really.
Yeah, I think a week from now, no one's gonna be talking about it. I don't know. People will find something else to complain about. Yeah.
Those same people that booed, Mexico scores, they're going to be at the Angel celebrating. I mean, that's
why not?
That's the difference of it. It's like I'm watching these shows in Mexico, and they're interviewing everybody. Oh, we have a horrible team. They cannot play. The coach is horrible. This is one of the worst. All these rotaciones. So what do you think is going to happen in the World Cup? They could definitely beat Germany. It's like these fans are so like one-sided of how the reality is, and I get it, and I'm with you there, Jason. They can boo, and I put a bunch of stuff on Twitter, and I definitely got a lot of responses. They are coming there to see a show. They were going there, and it kind of opened up my eyes too. Somebody said on TV, I'm taking my kids, I'm taking my, how hard it is to come all the way south to the Azteca for them to play, this way. And then, they scored 1-0, but then for the other 70 minutes, they're not playing, con garra and all that other sense. And you kind of go, okay, if you're coming to expect a show, then you didn't get a show. Okay, you're booing for that performance. But at the same time, you got to think a little bit more. These players don't want to get hurt. It's the last game of the Azteca before a huge trip. It's not like anyone's going 100%. We won, and I asked that question. I really don't see another team in the world, regardless of how bad they are, getting booed when they win in their send-off game. There really isn't anyone. People kept saying maybe in South America and all that, but I don't see it. So for me, it's kind of like,
It's also the Azteca, though. It's also the Azteca. It's the stadium. It's people are used to having Mexico playing there, and there's a certain expectation associated with Mexico playing in the Azteca. So I guarantee you, if that game would have been played in Monterrey, they would have got an absolutely incredible send off, even with a 1-0 victory.
I completely agree. People keep saying that it would have been the same in Monterrey. I don't think so. My question to kind of end this whole bull thing is. I see, and I'm sorry, because I had these questions, and I'm like, all right, I'll ask you guys. You seem like when Atlas is down 4-0 or when America is down, and you always see like the supporter groups like continuing to chant regardless of how horrible your team is playing. And even if they're down or at the end of the game they lost, they're continue to like, chant and continue with the canticos and everything. Like I just don't, how come that doesn't translate over to the L3? Because the minute they don't like it, it's like there's that loyalty in clubs. And then it comes down to, I expect this. And I think that's our problem. We expect this team to be, winning World Cups already. And that's why they're not happy, where I'm kind of thinking, dude, they're playing exactly how they're supposed to be playing. So
at least I would understand that if Mexico played poorly. I mean, I know 1-0 isn't an exciting scoreline, but they had 29 shots. They hit the post twice. I mean, Layun was having a fantastic match out there. I mean, honestly, I think Univision, they said that like the man of the match was Lozano. Like Lozano wasn't the man of the match. The man of the match it should have been split by the two Scottish goalkeepers. Those guys were excellent during that match. I thought they were fantastic. I don't know. I know we were talking about how maybe it might not have been that entertaining for fans, but I think it was, I don't know, it was a fun game. Obviously, you want to see Mexico win this game, but maybe like 2 or 3 more goals at the very least, just because they had 29 shots. But I mean, if their finishing was just a little bit better, that would have been just a brilliant performance. But I thought they played well. I don't know. I think it would be one thing if they played badly. I don't know.
It was a bet. I think it was. I mean, if we're looking just analyzing the game, which that's why I didn't get out of it. As long as there were no hurt players, for me, it was a win. if they're trying to experiment, with the injuries, as long as we're there, and Osorio's still trying to do something, and we'll get into the negatives with that. I'm not like I'm happy with Osorio and the team or where they're at 1 week away from the World Cup, but at the same time, it was expected, The
negative for me, the real negative, was that it was a real opportunity in both the games for the strikers, Chicharito against Wales, and then Jimenez and Lozano and even Tecatito to get a couple of goals. I mean, Vela late in the second half there as well. I mean, he missed. It was basically like 4-on-2 counter attack, and they just mess around with it, and it's like
they're trying to pass the ball into the back of the net on like a few opportunities. It's just like
and I just felt just the strikers to get a couple of goals and just a little boost of confidence before going over there. I mean, I think apart from that, I think Osorio, I honestly think the Nestor Araujo injury has changed. So Osorio said the other day, he said on April 5th, April 7th, he'd already got his kind of plan of how to play Germany. And then he went over to Europe and he's kind of discussed it with all the Europe-based players. And then with the injuries now, it's kind of changed all that. So you saw, he's looking, how can I use Edson Alvarez? Where am I going to put Carlos Salcedo? And those are the things, Layun, like Cesar was saying, he was brilliant playing further forward. And I think those are the things now that Osorio is trying to kind of put into the equation to kind of come up with an alternative plan for this Germany game, because his original plan, has basically gone out the window because of these injuries.
I saw, I'm kind of with you guys. I think their scoreline should have been there. There was definitely a lot of shots off the posts. The keeper doing a great job stopping a few. It could have definitely been 3-4-1. There was also a header from that Ochoa kind of didn't get to, and it also hit off the post from one of the Scottish players. So it could have been 1-1. If it was a 1-1, boo the team. That's where we're going back to it. But as far as I saw some negatives is, and I get the injury is huge, and you just kind of answered my question, Tom. But I would have liked to have seen already, maybe this game and the Denmark game, a solid lineup. This is who we're going to go to, because we've been waiting for these experiments. We've been waiting for what he's been doing. I feel like he still doesn't have an answer for what's about to come in the World Cup. We saw with players being moved all over the place. I started tracking Rafa, started at back, then moved him up front. Layun started kind of towards the middle, then he switched sides. And it's just kind of, I love the control that he has outside the field. That's great.
But the idea that Osorio doesn't know
so many things.
The idea that Osorio is like he's like, oh no, what shall I do? Oh, where am I going to put Layun? He's like, he's got very specific questions during those games that you want
answered by now, Tom. That's where I'm.
Of course. But with the injuries, what can you do? I mean, it changes things, and you have to put these players on the field in the associations between players. You can only see if you put them there. And so Edson Alvarez, obviously, he's probably the surprise, no? I mean, out of the 23 players, he's probably, if you'd have gone 2 months ago or a month ago, if we'd have gone a year ago or 6 months ago, we probably said, yeah, Edson Alvarez is in. But if we'd have said a few weeks ago, Edson Alvarez is going to be one of those players, then I think it would have been a bit of a surprise, because he's not been playing well for America. But anyway, he needs answers to those questions, and obviously one of those answers that he got was with Carlos Salcedo playing on the left side of the centre-back duo. And that meant that Oswaldo Alanis is out, because Oswaldo Alanis was going to be coming for Moreno. And then obviously Osorio's got this. The answer now is that no, Salcedo can be that guy, because Araujo could have been that guy as well to play on the left. I don't know. It's kind of not kind of sexy to talk about these things, but this is how Osorio's mind works. This is what he's trying to answer these questions. And honestly, I think come the first game in Germany, I don't think it's going to be a case of the players not knowing what they're going to do. I mean, it's not saying they're going to win, but I think it's going to be Mexico's team is going to be decent. You know what I mean? It's not like he's going to make ridiculous positional decisions in the big game against Germany.
This isn't the sexy Mexican soccer show, Tom. This is the.
I think
this is the boring tactics Mexican soccer show.
What people kind of look at is the fact that players are used to playing with each other in a sense that they know next who's here in the left or the right. And I know that these players have played, but in a sense, seeing Layun there all of a sudden, how many games have he played there, or Edson or anyone in those in those positions. I think the biggest, as far as what, the biggest question is Diego Reyes, how fit he's ready, he's really to play and where he's going to play. And I think that's where, you're also bringing that question of are we fully fit to play against Germany? We already know Guardado isn't, but any questions on Diego Reyes and is he ready to play against Denmark? As much as Osorio has deemed that this is one of the guys that he's always been sticking with since the beginning.
I will say really quickly, though, Tom brought up Carlos Salcedo, and I will say that I know Scotland didn't prove to be the most difficult opponent for Mexico, but I did feel a little bit more confident seeing Salcedo looking pretty. I don't know. I'll say he looked confident in that left center back position. It was cool to see him not only just do well with his passing too, but he was giving out a lot of instructions. He was yelling at the players. He was looking for good passes, and that made me. I mean, knowing that maybe Reyes might not be fit, that Moreno. I mean, it looks like he'll be ready for the World Cup, but I mean, it's still a little doubtful how 100% he will be. But that made me feel better to see Salcedo do all right. I think Ayala had an all right match as well. I think Salcedo stood out a little bit more to me, but I think after all the defensive injuries, I think I feel a little bit better knowing that Salcedo can step up there if needed. But I guess that also means that we need someone potentially like Edson Alvarez to step up and maybe, I mean, if Layun plays on maybe if he has to play as a right as a right back, maybe that means Gallardo stepping up, which I do genuinely worry about if Gallardo's playing as a left back. But I will say Salcedo made me feel a little bit more, a little bit better, a little bit more less anxious after some of the injury problems.
Before we get into the 23-man roster that was released earlier today, these two friendlies, did it accomplish what your hopes to being ready for the World Cup, where they're good friendlies? I go back to I still have questions, and hopefully Denmark can answer that, but I still have questions if we're completely ready. And I get it, injuries are a big deal, but just like you, Tom, said, I think it was wasted opportunity there, at least on the forward side against weak teams. Let's be honest. I think the Wales game was a great game for us to showcase that with a team that went forward, fast team, and what we might see with the Sweden game. But just like you said, there were some wasted opportunities there. So to you guys, last two games, were they useful, like the despedida supposedly are supposed to be, for us to gain that confidence?
I mean, I think they were always never going to be completely useful. I mean, I think there's a couple of matches, at least for the first match with the roster in flux. And the Wales match, I think, is almost a throwaway match. I'm not too worried about it. The Scotland was a little disappointing for me, at least. I mean, not the score line, but to see Mexico to see them ram in their head against the wall of not being able to score again, and just the slightly disjointed midfield to the forward line, what was going on there, and just it felt like a lot of soloist play to me. And I mean, to be expected to a certain extent, because this isn't the complete lineup. It's not the A lineup, and everyone's not in there. You're mixing and matching pieces. It's a friendly match. I mean, this is the way it goes. Things get kind of jumbled. You're moving the formations around. You're switching in players and out. That happens. But just with the talent on the field, I wanted to see a little more. Raul is always a player that I want to be the guy for Mexico. That I always so much talent. I expect him to step up and take those big opportunities. And it was kind of a sad Scotland performance from Raul for me. And so that was a disappointing one, but it's not major things. It's not major red flags. As you alluded to, for me, so it all comes down to Denmark, because I'm looking at Reyes, I'm looking at Guardado. I'm thinking, are these guys going to be healthy? And I kind of worry if they're not playing in the Denmark match, and if they're not healthy, then are they just thrown into Germany? Is that their first match back, coming back from injury? And that's a scary.
Diego Guardado
need to be the case. I don't know.
No.
Diego Reyes, Guardado, and Moreno are not going to be 100% for Germany. They haven't played. Let's just be honest.
I mean, it's a scary thing for me, and that's all I'm thinking about. So, I mean, maybe I'm hoping you get somebody back. I don't know what the case is, and it's hard to say what's going to happen with these injuries going forward. But I hope they can get some minutes and get something under their belt before Germany. But if they're not, I'm worried about them playing. I don't know.
I mean, I think Moreno's fine. I think he's he's going to play against Denmark. I don't think there's going to be a problem, and he'll play against Germany. Not, to be honest, it's not been too long since the season ended. He's obviously been keeping himself in shape, and that doesn't bother me too much. Guardado, I think he's going to be fine as well. I think historically, Guardado coming back from injuries, he does well. You know what I mean? He's a player who I think he's just naturally a fit player, and he's got that experience. And again, I think he'll be involved against Denmark. But even if he only gets 20 minutes, I'd still have him against Germany. And if he doesn't play against Germany, then to be honest, you've got someone like Jonathan Dos Santos, or you've got a Marco Fabian. For me, you've got players that it wouldn't overly concern me. And I'm not diminishing what Guardado means, because he's obviously perhaps been the most consistent player over the last 4 years or more for Mexico. But the one that for me, the big concern is Reyes, because he's the type of player that is, for me, he very much. He's a confident player. When he's playing regular, like we've seen in La Liga, he gets into form and he looks really good. And then when he's not playing so much, he's a bit tentative in his decision making. So for me, Reyes is the issue because also at the back, for me, he was a key player against Germany in Osorio's original plan. And so if he's going to play in that holding midfield role and he's not there, then how do you fill that hole? Do you put Herrera there, Edson Alvarez? Do you throw a 20-year-old in against this Germany attack? I mean, for me, Reyes is the big worry. And I think it's absolutely key that we see Diego Reyes not only play against Denmark, but, play well and show that he's got confidence and he's in form. That's my main worry heading into next week.
I think a lot of fans will be worried about Reyes, whether he's healthy or not. I think a lot of fans are probably, I don't worry to the extreme that they do, but I do kind of get it a little bit, because the Reyes that you sometimes see at the club level isn't the Reyes that you see at the national team level, and we're still kind of waiting for him to really, just be good for the national team just consistently. I think that's what we've been wanting for a while. So I don't think I'm freaking out as much as anyone else. I mean, there are people who would say that they don't want him in the World Cup roster, which I think is ridiculous. But I do think that, I don't know, I do feel apprehensive when I see him on the field, regardless whether he's fit or not. I don't know. I'm still a little worried about him.
I've never been a Reyes fan. I'll say it. Not that he should be off the team. No, I think he gels well, and then how everybody's around. I think you need the good mix of players, and I think there's a great locker room there. I wouldn't be surprised if. I feel that's like Osorio's guy.
My continual thought is that I have no problem with Reyes. I think he's a fine center back. I just don't think he makes sense for Mexico in the central defensive midfielder role. So, I mean, I if that was Osorio's original plan, I hope it goes awry. I hope that doesn't work out, because I don't think that's a good plan. But that's just me.
Silverhouse was talking about this. Fans who'd rather see Mexico and Osorio fail as opposed to seeing Mexico succeed.
Okay, was that
you right there, Jason? Yeah.
Was that against New Zealand? Was it Osorio in the middle? Was it during the Confeds Cup?
Osorio.
Reyes.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Reyes.
Have we tried that yet? I guess we could try it. See if we could sneak him into the roster the last second.
All right. Well, the list came out late last night. For us in the West Coast. In the Western United States, right, was able to get that, but late for the East. And the final 23/24 were released yesterday by the Mexican Federation. I kind of take a step back. 4 years ago, we were all couldn't wait for this list to come out. I remember we had charts, who was going in, and I think Aquino was in the bubble, and I thought there was more buzz about who was going to miss out. I looked at the 23 that I posted about 2 weeks ago, and I think I only missed because of the injuries. But it's pretty much who you expect was going to be there. A little bit surprising. So the three that are out from that 25 list, Dem, Alanis, and Molina. And obviously you have Eric Gutierrez as a sub that will be making the travel, which is obviously for that position, mostly Guardado, but also some other variations in there why Eric is there. So let's talk about the three. This is the final 23 that we're seeing in there. And surprises for you guys at least, or are the people that are out? I'm going to start right off with the Molina. I mean, I thought Molina didn't make it. I think we were talking about 2 weeks ago. I'm like, Molina doesn't make my list but Molina not making Osorio's list for as much as he talked about his height, the way that he plays, the Gallito snub. That was my question, and I was definitely very surprised. I like the fact that he's not on there. I felt that you know, if he's taken in there, but Dam and then also Alanis. I think we all had Dam and either Hugo Ayala or Alanis on that list. So not as surprises. But let's go with you, Jason. You were the most surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty shocked that Jurgen Damm wasn't included. He's certainly a player that I would have liked to have chosen to be one of those players, but it just seemed like he was. Osorio really liked him. Osorio really wanted to use him in this position. So I think he just had too many options, and I think it's the logical choice. I think it makes total sense, but it seemed like a player that was going to find a way to make that final 23 based on what Osorio's done in the past. But it makes total sense for what we've seen, you know, and the way the roster is situated right now. I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. You know, it's also not completely surprising that Gio was on that final 23.
Yeah.
Based on, I mean, we talked about this on previous shows and what we thought Gio would probably be there, but yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't think there's a ton of shock. Jurgen Damm not being there is a little surprising to me, but it's not something that's like based on some of what we've been seeing from these other countries. It's not one of those big shockers or anything like that. No.
Yeah, I don't think anything was too crazy. I was not that shocked by any of it. I mean, even if Molina did go, how many minutes would he get? Would Molina being in the starting 11 getting minutes, would that be the difference between Mexico making it to quinto partido or not? I don't think so. I don't think it would be that big of a difference. But yeah, no, I wasn't too shocked by it. And obviously, we got to keep in mind that Eric Gutierrez is still the backup in case that, I guess, of Guardado or Reyes, whether those guys aren't fit enough. But yeah, no, I mean, I guess I was a little surprised by Dan, but I think we were all, I guess you could say we're all rooting for the fact that he was missed out on the roster. I don't think that many of us, even Tigres fans, were perhaps really excited about seeing him in the initial call-up. But yeah, nothing too shocking. Yeah, nothing too shocking right there.
But I think the reason it's not shocking is that, you know, for the first time since 2006, you know, Mexico has had a process. Everybody's for the last like 10 years have been going, oh, Mexico need a continuity in the manager spot, blah, blah, blah. It's been pretty easy to read Osorio when it comes to the squad decision. I think that's the reason we're not shocked. I mean, he's laid his cards on the table, and everybody knows what he wants from this squad. And you know, this is the first time in history that Mexico's had a majority of players that feature for clubs outside of Mexico. So I think it's very cosmopolitan. I think obviously Osorio, you know, respects the players that can get. And yeah, I think that, you know, 4 years ago with Herrera, there was, because again in the game against New Zealand in the playoff, he didn't call in any of the European players, and you know, it was. I mean, when you look back at it, those were crazy times. And then obviously it comes to the World Cup, and
dark and sad times. Oh my god!
You know, there was that big debate: is Herrera actually going to leave out some of like the big Euro-based players? And yeah, and then obviously 2010, Aguirre hadn't been in place long before that World Cup. But this time we've actually, and you know, we'll see the results of it. But I think Mexico personally are a much better place to have a good World Cup this time around than 2014 or 2010.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I think one of the things that I really have appreciated about Osorio, and there's a lot of issues that I have with some of his tactics, but like the one thing I really appreciated that he hasn't succumbed to throughout the process with him. He hasn't succumbed to bringing up the hot player, the informed player in Liga MX who scores a couple goals, brings him into the team, continually switching up the roster. He's been pretty consistent with this group of players. And I mean, that's what gives me hope more than anything for the World Cup here, is that there's this real core that has been playing together for so long now that even if you mix up one or two players, this has been the core and they're still there. And an injured player, as Tom said, like Guardado going out, it hurts, but there's other players who are still part of that core in that midfield that if Guardado's not there, it's not just completely falling apart or trying to find something else, because there is a core there. And that's the thing I've appreciated the most about this process, is that there hasn't been all those quick replacements. Let's try all these players and see what they're like, because they scored 5 goals in Liga MX.
What you're saying is hashtag trust the process.
It's big these days.
When you get 7-0, the process kind of goes down the drain with or Germany 4-1.
It's been a gradual process. It's been a gradual process.
Well, that's the interesting thing, that even despite that, it didn't, you know, and I think the FMF have to take a lot of credit, because if you ask anybody in the Mexican game, the ex-players, what they want, what if you to ask them, what do you want for the Mexican national team, and almost the first answer every time is, I want to see a manager being given a proper, you know, and at the end of the day, Osorio was at fault with that Chile game. There's a lot of things that went down, but at the end of the day, it was, you know, they stuck with him, and the players backed him, and I just think that it's been interesting. They refused the urge to do what they've always done.
I mean, I kind of, you
know, even after the Gold Cup too. After the Gold Cup, like, it seemed like people were really calling for his firing. I mean, I think that was close to the Chile loss, like, kind of levels there when you saw that kind of like criticism, but they stuck with them, and I was pretty impressed, especially because he had a 6-match ban before that too. So, like, I think
the Chile loss, I think that was a moment where he could have been fired, because I think when you lose so badly, I think the natural question that you ask is, are the players still with him? I mean, what's the arguments here to carry on with this? Like, because, you know, teams lose that badly, and a lot of the time the confidence between the manager and the players just completely vanishes. And I think that was the key thing. The Gold Cup was ridiculous. I mean, that was stupid. I mean, it was just a B tournament. It was.
You mean just the Gold Cup in general, or that one, Tom?
That Gold Cup. I mean, it was such. It was such a B team that I don't know. I mean, obviously, fans want to see Mexico win, but it's an experimental tournament. That's it.
But it was on the back of that Confederations Cup, right? I mean, which also had a fair share of disappointment as well. I think in combination.
I kind of, you know, I go back to your question that all these players kind of want, you know, or you talk to anybody in the game that they want that continuation. I don't think the FMF has. Everyone talks about Mexico has 9 coaches since 2000, whatever that stat. What was one coach that should have kept going that they fired? Other than Vucetich on that one game after Costa Rica. But I don't think there was any coach that we go, nope, they should have kept them going, because that Chepo during the Hex, right before, you know, he needed to get fired. There's no way the player losing the players. Piojo got fired because he hit somebody, and I think that he should have gotten fired.
Yeah.
What other, and there were the interims, which I hate the way that people count those as coaches, because we knew they were going to be coaches, but I don't think the FMF has fired a coach that wasn't warranted before.
Yeah, I mean, you go back. I mean, La Volpe could have done more there. Then you go back. Hugo Sanchez. I mean, you know, because of some Olympics, suddenly he's out. I mean, it's okay. It's a cultural thing, though. It's like, it's saying, you know, there's gonna be hiccups in this process in these, because it's football. You know, we've seen it many times. We've seen Pep Guardiola team get absolutely battered as well, and he's probably the best manager in the world. But it's a cultural thing to back the manager and to be brave and say, we're not going to change because of one result, you know, unless the players, like what happened with Chepo, unless the players kind of lost the confidence. I mean, I think that's the key thing. But yeah, I mean, it's also about picking the right manager. I mean,
well, and I think it goes back to picking the right manager, where there is slim pickings, and I feel that's how Osorio kind of got the job. And now he's here. I'm with you guys. Continuing the process, let him, you know, continue with this, what he wants to do. You brought up a great point.
It's just an interesting kind of counter question is, you know, if Osorio would have been fired, you know, who could have come in and who would have made that better? You know what I mean?
Nobody would have made it.
That was my question from when everybody wanted to fire him. Who are you going to bring in? Oh, you can bring in this person. There isn't anybody. When they were looking for a coach, people turned him down. Like, not that many people want this job. Duca doesn't want this job. You know, the only person that wants this job is Piojo, and he's not going to get it again.
I think that's a good point, too, because it'd be one thing if there was a really exciting target out there. I mean, yeah, of course there are exciting targets, but I think the big question is, like, what realistic option would have taken it? And when you look at the realistic options, it's not exciting. It's not exciting. If you bring back Piojo, that's regressing.
Like,
that's regressing, man. Like, if you were to bring back Piojo. I know a lot of people
made it already. Like, great. Keep going. The one thing I said, you know, go to Europe on go, you know, take some experience outside and and then come back to the three. It's like, and I think that's also the afición going, all right, we're out with this guy. Fuera Osorio, 10 days before the World Cup. They want it. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The good thing is, I think the role of Mexico's manager is in a better position now because of this as well. I mean, Tommy had that article up about Osorio and his next steps, and how he's kind of improved his place in the manager role, and how he might be in line to take a big step next. And I kind of think that his longer tenure here with Mexico has made this position more attractive than it was prior to him being here, and that they've stuck with a manager and allowed him the process of going through this World Cup and some freedom to choose the players he wanted to. So I think Mexico manager is now in a more stable and attractive place than it was a few years ago.
Yep, 100% agree. Yeah.
It almost makes the World Cup even more important. You know what I mean? Let Mexico do well. Because if it's like Mexico go with the group stage, it's going to be like, oh well, we tried to do it properly, and look what happened. Now we're gonna revert to.
That's exactly what's going to happen. And if we don't get that sixth game, I don't know.
Sixth game, bloody hell.
Sixth game. What?
If we don't get that fifth game, I apologize. If we don't get to that fifth game,
if we don't win the World Cup,
Osorio out because they already want him out, and. How did we play? How did we lose? It's going to come down to it. Really quick, Tom, you mentioned obviously more players outside of Mexico the first time in a World Cup, which obviously it says just the level of players that we have at the moment. And I think everybody would agree. They're playing in I guess more better leagues. But another stat surprising is the amount of players that are coming back that have already played in a World Cup or at least went to a World Cup cycle. 16, I think I looked it up. 15 from 2014. Vela wasn't there, and then obviously Vela was there in 2010. But it says a lot because if we're looking at other World Cup teams, I think La Volpe only had like 9 in 2002. There was only like around 4 or 5. Always been in the low teens. I think 2014 was one of the highest. I think it was like 11 or something. But the amount of experience that's coming into this team is, I think, very, very important because the World Cup is not your normal tournament. This is the biggest stage in a player's career. And I think we made a huge deal, if you remember, the psychological game in that ends. And I'm liking the fact that these players have already – I think that starting 11 is going to be the most experienced starting 11 that we've ever had as far as an L3 at World Cups.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Jason was saying before. I mean, that experience that this team has got, they've got a bunch of players in the prime. If you're going to make an argument for kind of Mexico doing well, I think this is one of the fundamental things. I mean, these guys have been together a long time. They know each other. And I think really importantly, they like each other. These guys, it's described to me by someone inside the federation as these guys are just a bunch of friends. I mean, they generally get on. And I think for a lot of these players, Chicharito, Vela, Giovanni, Guardado, Herrera, this is the last World Cup in the prime, basically. And I think there's a real kind of, I don't know, it's almost like those boos in the Azteca the other day were it almost kind of makes them even more focused. Like, screw you lot. This is our group, and they've forged this kind of us against the world mentality. I mean, it's not great when you're a media member trying to cover the team because they don't talk a lot. But, if you look at professional sports, a lot of the time, even, Phil Jackson, the old basketball, he managed the Chicago's. He talked about that kind of thing as well. It's forging that kind of relationship between players, and that this is the bunk that will take to Moscow.
No, I do agree. When you look at the roster, you look at all the players who are 28 older. It's Jonathan Dos Santos, Herrera, Aquino, Fabian, Giovanni Dos Santos, Vela, Layun, Chich, Moreno, Guardado. I mean, there are so many of these guys who are going into this World Cup at their very prime. So I think that's something that makes me think that Mexico can thrive in the World Cup. I mean,
and it's not an old team. It's actually quite young, isn't it? Like 24, like the average age.
One of the oldest. Like in the average age of the squad, I think he might be second oldest. It's actually quite strange.
Thanks to all those. Well, it's because of Rafa and all the guys at their prime. It's because all the guys are like in their late 20s. Yeah. Rafa doesn't help either. We're probably average age like 37 because of that. But
that goes into kind of really quick Rafa Marquez, 5th World Cup. Who do you really see him playing against Germany?
I don't see Rafa starting any games, to be honest, at the World Cup. I think his role, Osorio's kind of hinted at it. I think his role's coming up the bench for the last 20, 30 minutes, depending on the game situation. So if Mexico need to hold on, I think he'll be put on there through his experience to try a little.
Uh-oh. Tom's Wi-Fi.
This is Tom's Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Or is it because he's talking about Rafa and it gets slow?
US heard him talk about Rafa.
Interfering.
All right, Tom, go ahead. I think you're back.
No, yeah, I can't remember what I was saying now.
Last 20 minutes.
I'm telling you, Tom, stop having drinks before we start recording, man.
Rafa's going to come in after this, it depends on what that's needed. It's a great point, Tom. If we're winning to hold things off, we need to...
And in Mexico losing 3-0, it's going to be like the Confederations Cup against Germany. It's going to be throw Rafa on and make sure it's not 7-0. But I mean, yeah, apart from that, I don't think he's going to play many minutes.
Was Rafa there in that Germany?
Yeah, because remember Rafa against Germany. Yeah, he came on. Then he started the next game against Portugal. He played quite well actually in that game.
I mean, speaking of him playing quite well, I mean, it was just so sad for me yesterday just to see him doing so well with his passing and just to think, oh man, he still has a role with this team. It's not a starting role, but you could still see what he could provide, which just says so much about. I mean, obviously you need to surround him with players who, I don't know, who can like compensate for his lack of speed, but he was still providing such good passes yesterday. I don't know, man. It was just, I'm not saying we should, I don't think we should give the guy any minutes, but I don't know, man. It's sad that there's some 39-year-old guy who's still like showing off. Like
his shot's still there. Like, you see like that long cross is like perfect. Yeah. And then I think he even like took like the defender like from behind. He ran and he took the ball away from the Scottish defender. I mean, it is Scotland, and I saw kind of Rafa, man. His face kind of just looked like he played 180 minutes. I mean, he was beat. Yeah, but one thing that was really interesting, I think the microphones from, if you were watching the Univision feed, were right next to Osorio. Like, I kept hearing somebody yelling, and I'm like, who's yelling? And it was Osorio. And I swear, he was yelling at Rafa like all the time, either to direct what he sees, and it looks like he's using him as his voice kind of on the field. And I remember him just kind of yelling, like I think he was like, Rafa, tell him to do this, like dile Jonathan. It was like it was kind of cool to see that and I guess it's not surprising what Rafa will bring onto the table. I'm kind of like, yeah, I can't believe we need a 39-year-old, but at the same time, every time I've given up on Rafa, he's given me a reason. If it's a goal in the World Cup, I think 4 goals, right? If it's against the US, that header against the US, like it's Rafa Marquez. I mean, what can go wrong, right? Red cards can go wrong. Lots of it, but
I don't know if I put it that way. Things could go wrong.
Oh, man. I guess the Nore Bananas with Rafa, everything.
And the inspirational leadership role more than anything else, in my estimation. But yeah, I can't see his role being very big in many of these matches. Just I think, like Tom said, makes sense toward the end minutes to kind of settle things down, control the midfield a little bit, control the passing, and working against some tired legs on the other side wouldn't be the worst thing. So yeah.
Man. All right. Let's talk about Denmark coming up.
Do we have to? Can't we just go straight to the World Cup? I'm done with these friendlies. I just want to go straight to the World Cup, man.
No, I'm not ready.
This has to be Germany warm-up, right? I mean, this has to be like, as much as it can be, right? This has to be the full-on, like, no messing around friendly. Don't you guys expect that in this one?
Isn't this officially like the Swedish like setup? Like for some odd reason that random thing we're just like, oh, we're playing against that country. Let's just play against the country next to them, because clearly they have the same tactics.
Exact thing, yeah.
Everyone does that across.
Really I think it's going to be close to the Germany 11. I think that's it now. Osorio's had these 2 games. He's given players minutes as well. I mean, it's something you go into World Cup, you have to give players minutes before, and otherwise they're not playing for a month, and then all of a sudden you need them in a big game. So I think he's used these 2 games to give, to distribute minutes. Someone like Hugo Ayala, for example, and I think now ahead of the Denmark game, it's the real thing. I think it's going to be very close to the team that faces Germany. Obviously, injuries, some of that's going to depend on the injury situation. But yeah, I think we're going to see Osorio's hand. I think we're going to see, for me, one of the biggest issues is who's going to play the holding role, because I think it was Reyes, and I'm not sure what the deal is now. And I think Osorio's thinking about Edson Alvarez. I think he's thinking about Herrera and sacrificing, like, a bit of the defensive play, and giving and playing someone there who's good with the ball at his feet, and then bringing in Layun or Jonathan Dos Santos in a more advanced role. So I think those are the issues, and the right back as well. Who's going to be the right back?
Yeah,
that's where the questions kind of come in, and when I start putting now with this 23 and start to put a starting 11, it goes back to that holding midfield, right? Who's going to be that player? Because there isn't anybody who dominates at that position the way we would wanted them to against Germany, against Sweden, and I keep thinking Herrera. I think he needs to get going forward. That's where Herrera is best. Jonathan in the same way going best. Guardado could be kind of in there, but again, kind of going forward, we need that person to stay back in that holding midfield, and I think that's the biggest question for me too. And I'll be interesting to see what Osorio does, and I think we're going to be surprised where it's going to be what he's trying this out. I hope not.
I mean, I don't know. Personally, I like Herrera as defensive midfielder. I mean, I think he does all right with some of those defensive traits. I know we would like him a little bit more attack-minded, but I don't think he's a terrible option back there. You could even say
he's really good. I think he's brilliant. I think in general he's a great player, and I think he's very, very good in that position as well.
Yeah, so you put him back to the defensive midfield role. Okay, then you're gonna have Guardado, and you can have a Jonathan Dos Santos work up there. You can have a Fabian. I don't think there's a lack of options. I would like to see that.
I feel like going forward is a lot better.
Yeah, you do. If you play him in that role, then you do miss what he gives you going further forward. But this is the dilemma now for Osorio. What does he do? And neither of the options are great. That's why I think he wants Reyes. And to be honest, I think Reyes has got a lot of criticism for his holding midfield. The way you think about it, though, as well, is somebody who is almost like you're swapping between a back 3 and a back 5, and a back 4. It's someone who moves up and down. You can drop back into a 3 and then allow the fullbacks to go up, rather than this it changes the system. It means Mexico can move between a 4-3-3 and a 3-4-3 with Reyes dropping back and the wide defenders moving forward. And I think Osorio, that's what he likes. He likes to have that flexibility, change the formation of the team depending on what the opposition are doing. So yeah, I think Osorio, I think he'll still try everything possible to get Reyes minutes against Denmark and hope that he does okay and gets through without further injuring himself.
Yeah, that's just my big question on that there. I don't think there's hope not. Any questions in Ochoa starting, right? I mean, I don't see that an issue again for the same, 3 different keepers. Really hope not. I think, are we done with that, Tom? You're closer to the team.
Yeah, no, we're done, but you feel a bit bad for Corona, no? It's like the 3rd World Cup now where it's just like, a player to go to 3 World Cups is amazing, no? But to be like consistently on the bench at everyone is like, you got to be a bit disappointed.
That's usually how keepers are, right? I mean,
yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I don't think he's had a massive argument. I mean, it wasn't like 2010 with Ochoa and Conejo, where everyone's like, "What is going on here?" You know what I mean? From nowhere. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Ochoa's the goalkeeper, and I think he's in good form. I think he's in the peak of his career, possibly in the form of his career, and I think Hercules Gomez was saying, or he said that he's a tournament goalkeeper. The kind of short tournaments, he gets that confidence and he produces match-winning displays. And I think Mexico can be confident about what he can do at the World Cup. Let's be honest, against Germany, Ochoa's going to need a big game. I mean,
yeah. And somehow Ochoa, not to bring this to his like season, but man, when he first moved over to Belgium, I was like really worried about what was going to go on there with him. But I mean, at the very end of the season, they ended up qualifying for a Champions League qualifying spot. I mean, I know it's not the group stage, but they're really close. I mean, that's pretty exciting. And I think he was voted as he was the fan favorite. He was like voted as one of the best players of the season. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy with how that ended up turning out for Ochoa, because at first I don't know, I was not happy about his move over to Belgium, but it's just, I don't know, it's been brilliant for him, and now he's going to go into this with a lot of momentum.
No injuries. Number one, stop the game. Like if these guys, Denmark's coming out to kill our players, just forget it. It's all right. I want to definitely see at least the core. I mean, if 9 out of 11 players, if there's something there that he's still trying to, because of injuries, but I want to see what he's ready to go against Germany, and then definitely some goals. I think, the game before
from Denmark or Mexico,
from Mexico. That I want to see. I want to see our players up front, really take this game and get that confidence of scoring and going against Germany. One really quick thing, and sorry I didn't bring it up before. I felt like the team is shooting from the outside a lot more.
Definitely against Scotland. That was something they talked about before, and Osorio wasn't happy against Wales that they were trying to work the ball into the box every time. And then against Scotland, we saw the players shooting from distance, and Osorio actually, despite the ball only going in once, he said he was really happy with the way that those. And I know from speaking to Osorio that, for example, in the game against Sweden, that's something to look out for, because Sweden defend so deep, they pack the defense, the 4-4-2 formation, and they make it so tight that that shooting from distance is going to be vital. And I've said it in the countdown to Russia. I think Marco Fabian has got a great chance of starting that game, and that's one of the main reasons. His shooting from distance is absolute top quality.
Yeah, and at the Santa Clara game, I got a chance to talk to Marco, and that's one of the told him, I think he had like 3 shots. One of them went in. And that's one of the things he said. It's a directive from Osorio, is if he sees that shot, he's going to shoot it. So we know Layun, as we have Marco Fabian on the other side. I do believe we're gonna see goals, and they're going to be golazos, instead of trying to work it in that sense. And I think we have Herrera also, Layun, Fabian, Guardado in that sense too, players who can shoot from distance. So I'm excited, at least on that part. 10 days. How are you feeling? Feeling better?
I'm feeling, I don't know, excited.
Yeah.
Cautiously about the World Cup in general, I'm hyped. Mexico, I'm like cautiously optimistic. Just like I think that's how I feel about Mexico. Yeah.
I think it would come down to where we see this Mexico. I think not reaching the second round is definitely something that cause for concern and failure, and I would be upset. I think if you're going to meet Brazil, Brazil's in great form right now, as everyone talking, and again, you're going to need the game of a lifetime for Mexico to beat. We're going to have to beat a world power in order for us to get to that quinto partido. If you have to choose right now, not because I'm malinchista, I don't think Mexico has those. But I think if all the players are playing at their top, as we've seen, Tecatito on one side, Chucky Lozano on the other, Vela, Chicharito, Jonathan, Herrera, Guardado, Layun, going forward, I think that we can do something big in this World Cup. It's just
it's one of those things. It's football. It's like there's Juan Manuel Lillo. It's in the book about Pep Guardiola, and he's like, what is being a football manager? And it's like, he says, it's like being the conductor of an orchestra. You have the horn section, the strings, the blah, blah, blah. And then you have to get it all together to make this beautiful sound. But in football and in other team sports, you've got an opposition as well. So it's not just like fine-tuning yourself. You've also got to, to beat the opposition orchestra, who are also trying to do the same things to create this beautiful sound. And it's like, that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of football. It's like, I think Mexico in a really good place heading into this World Cup. despite the boos, I just think this group is unbelievably united. I think the work that's gone on behind the scenes has put Mexico in a great position to succeed. But it's football, and I think that Mexico are the 15th best team in the world, and I think if everything goes to plan, they'll get through the groups, and then you need a bit of luck, no? I mean, after that, you're going to need a little luck.
You need luck. You need for Brazil not to get out of the groups.
Yeah.
Mexico. No, you know what? I'm confident. I think Mexico could do a decent job against Brazil. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Mexico, and I know that people were saying that Brazil could be one of the teams that could win the World Cup, but I'm okay with facing Brazil. I mean, we've seen what's happened in recent results against them, and I know that it could be a completely different squad, completely different situation. But just I don't know. I think Mexico could get the job done against them. I'm not gonna say that they're the favorites because that's dumb.
I'd be worried.
But I'm still gonna be worried. But I'd rather face Brazil than, let's say, I don't know,
world power.
Yeah, I would say yeah, as opposed to like an Argentina, as opposed to, and I know they're probably not gonna face Argentina, but yeah. Anywho, sorry, we could.
That's no. I'm almost in the exact same thing. If I had to pick between Germany, Argentina, France, Brazil, right? Because of the past World Cup with Spain, of the past World Cup winners to face in this round of 16, I would pick Brazil. I just feel like.
I'd definitely take Argentina.
I definitely take Argentina, 100%.
We automatically get in, and our players go, "Oh, they beat us in everything for the last 15 years." Like, I'm done.
I mean, if the mental baggage is going to get this Mexico team in that game, it's going to get.
It has before.
The team they're playing is almost irrelevant at that point. But Brazil's just better. They have too much talent at this point.
The problem with Brazil is they've got Coutinho, Firmino, and Neymar up front. And
who?
I mean,
yeah. Who are they? I don't know who they are.
We had
get those guys out of here.
Ronaldo,
Brazilian players.
You got Edson Alvarez, dude.
We faced great Brazil team.
Edinho.
Great Brazil teams.
All that said, yeah, I do want Brazil to struggle so we don't face it.
Somebody said it. Brazil, we're like the little rock in their shoe, right? Like, just not comfortable against Mexico.
But now they've got, like, I think their shoes like bigger now at this point. Like,
I don't know. I got great. I feel. Anyways,
quick shout out to Sarah Hernandez. You got a really good message from her from the to the Mexican Soccer Show account, saying she's super pumped about tonight's show, and she said she supports us on Patreon. So thanks a lot, Sarah, for that, and thanks to Jason as well for sending out the T-shirts, which are great for all the Patreon supporters out there.
Thank you, cousin Sarah.
Prima.
Been listening to the show. I think she messaged us a while back saying she just found us and she loves it, and she so awesome. Thank you so much. For all you guys know, we're the World Cup 10 days. We'll have a lot of stuff for you guys here at the Mexican Soccer Show. Also the Patreon. Tom, I know you're flying out there. What's your schedule so everyone sees where you're at?
Yeah, I'll be flying out to Denmark on Wednesday, get there Thursday, and then from here till the end of till July 15th, when Mexico make the final, and then the June 16th, I'll be leaving Russia. There you go.
Man, it's like 10 days. Like, that's it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
All right, guys. Well, we'll definitely continue to have more shows. For sure, we'll have a World Cup preview coming up before the World Cup, and then obviously all the content that we have on Patreon and everything that's been happening. Follow our coverage. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun there at the World Cup too. Really quick, Mr. Cesar Hernandez can close us off. Tell us, Cesar, it's just you're the positive. Give us that hope going into Denmark, into the World Cup, and say goodbye to all these guys that are on the chat.
Yeah, so obviously, let's see a strong 11 from Mexico against Denmark. Hopefully, we'll see a good show for them. And also keep an eye on the youngsters, too. It's not just the older Mexicans that we should be keeping an eye on the World Cup, but also the younger dudes at the Tuolon tournament. I believe they're playing the next game in the semis this Wednesday, if I remember correctly. So keep an eye on them, because obviously there are a lot of up-and-coming players that I'm really excited about. When you looked at the past rosters for those Tuolon tournaments, I know it's a little up and down when you look at the different options that Mexico's brought along. But in this one, there are a lot of really young and exciting players to keep an eye on. So let's not just keep an eye on the Denmark match, but also that upcoming semi for Mexico for the youth squad in the Toulon tournament.
Diego Lainez, a lot of people talking about him. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys on the next Mexican Soccer Show. Adiós a todos. México campeón.